welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. It's time for another team season preview, and this time it's a turn of the New York Jets, arguably the most talked about team this off-season. And with me, I've got a returning guest, someone who was on exactly a year ago for our Jets preview last season. Back with us today is Olivia Peebles. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
I'm good, yeah, not too bad. No problem having one at all. When it comes to Jets, only one person I can have on, and it is you. So, yeah, glad to have you on. And of course, I met you for the first time in person, December last year in New York, which was
Okay.
a great experience going to a game there. And it was really cool seeing you for the first time in person.
Yes, it was in the middle of your epic tour around America, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously, the highlight was a Jets win against the Bears, who I believe was playing like the third string
Mm.
quarterback in the end, or maybe second string, in the absolute pouring down rain. So I can only imagine that was the highlight of your trip. But no, it was really nice seeing you, and like I said, you can't Jets win can't be beat.
Well, I think differently, but yeah, no, for
Yeah.
you in New York as well. I mean, I technically New Jersey, I know, but it was yeah, no, it was really cool, and obviously the rain, unfortunately, and obviously the result didn't help things, but it was really good to experience. And I love New York. It was probably the highlight of my whole time in terms of cities to visit on my trip. It was like the third to last place I went to, so it was sort of
Mm.
fairly towards the end. You know, money was getting low, but I managed to do all of the classic tourist stuff. Did Statue of Liberty, New York, Empire
Mm.
State Building with James, and I did all the classic stuff. Didn't go to Madison Square Garden, but I would want to go there again at some point. But yeah, no, I had an amazing time, and yeah, and if I went again for a game, maybe it would be the Giants, just experience how the Giants do things at home. But
Hmm.
of course, we are here to talk all things Jet, and of course, a lot's changed since is that 12 months ago when we last did the podcast. So of course, the main ins and outs, the main outs, and I may have forgotten someone I don't know, but I can only really find Denzel Mims and Ty Johnson that have left the team. Talking of ins, Al Johnson's come through the door, Solomon Thomas has come through, McCole Hardman, Adrian Amos, and then two players that come in, Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. The reason why they've come in because Aaron Rodgers came through the door. Now there was a bit of a bit of uncertainty around the off season whether he would come or not, and there was constant talk every day on Good Morning Football. It was the same talk about Aaron Rodgers, and I think everyone was getting sick of it towards the end. But he's finally come through. And just for you, Olivia, for someone who's, we saw Mike White when we watched the game in New York, the same game, and you've had
Mm.
so many disappointing quarterbacks. Zach Wilson hasn't worked out yet, although he may still in the future become good. But you've had I forgot the butt fumble guy, Mark Sanchez. You've had Sam
Gosh.
Darnold, Joe Flacco,
Yeah.
so many bad quarterbacks, and the reason why you haven't been in a playoff game since 2010. So, for you, just how good is it to see someone of Aaron Rodgers' caliber playing for your team?
Yeah, I think right now it has sunk in a little bit, but I think especially when towards the end of the season when we knew we were going to start having to look for someone else, um, if we're being brutally honest, because we did. Uh, I think there was a feeling amongst Jets fans at the time that Aaron Rodgers, he could be an option, but he was never realistic because he's had this reputation, I think, for the past, 3 or 4 years now, where he's kind of teased that he's leaving the Packers and he's ended up signing an extension. And obviously, this was fired up in a way by the Packers drafting Jordan Love. And ever since then, it's just kind of been this bubbling away. And I don't think many people up until this year obviously thought that Aaron Rodgers would play for another team other than the Packers. Never mind the New York Jets, who, in recent history, if we're being honest, has been really, really bad. So we started to realise that maybe there is something going on in over in Green Bay where the Packers want to move on and Aaron Rodgers wants to move on. The big debate that came out of it to what in the off season just after the Super Bowl was Derek sorry, excuse me, was Aaron Rodgers versus Derek Carr, which looking back was a ridiculous argument. But I don't think many Jets fans anticipated his arrival to the team would be as smooth as it is. Um, Again, the past few years we've seen a very fiery Aaron Rodgers, whether like on and off the field. There was something wrong. And many Jets fans, their argument for being more pro Derek Carr was that you knew what he was getting with him. Is he going to set the world alight? No, but he was as good as what we've had the past 10, 15 years, however far you want to go back. And then Aaron Rodgers was a really unknown quantity. How would he gel with a new team? Would he be a leader? And when it became official and he started bedding with the team and you saying all these positive things, saying, how he wants to win a Super Bowl and, going into, he actually attended like mandatory camp, which is absolutely unheard of. I think we started to get the sense that, he was all in, he was motivated, he was fired up. And, I'm not under any delusions. We are still very much in the honeymoon phase. But to get someone like that for the New York Jets and to attract players as well who want to play for the Jets, it's a big step forward. Obviously, you've got to put, your money where your mouth is, and you've got to perform, and you've got to get to the playoffs and fight for AFC titles. But as of now, the vibes are good. Aaron Rodgers, he's been. It's still immense and it's still great to have him on his team, but obviously, it's becoming. As the season approaches, we want to see what we want to see that being put on the field, and that's a big ask in things like this.
And have you watched Hard Knocks yet?
Yeah, so I watched the first episode last week, a bit earlier than what it came out in the UK. I will admit to that. I watched it, and this is coming from a Jets fan. It portrayed the Jets in a very good way, and it portrayed Aaron Rodgers in a brilliant way. So I can imagine if you're a Dolphins fan, let's say, you're kind of like, ugh, rolling your eyes a bit at it, like this loving with the Jets. And I mean, it's. I know the team didn't want to do it, but as a fan of that team, it's always interesting to see how behind the scenes, but from like a national media point of view, rather than like in-house stuff where it's obviously going to be favourable. And I'm a little bit surprised with like the direction they took with Aaron Rodgers, but it was all positive, and that can easily change. But yeah, it's nice to have Hard Knocks, and it's nice to be updated as the weeks go by. And I'm sure this week's episode, which will feature like the Carolina game, which we played very well in preseason, I know, but that would be a fun watch as well.
Yeah, I think Hard Knocks. I think you see a lot of these programs like a Hard Knocks, like a All or Nothing back in the day, and I think you do see a lot of maybe almost like propaganda for a team. I think they always try and portray
Yeah.
it like, and if Aaron Rodgers is known to be quite a prickly character, I think if you want to get him on your good side, just after trading for him, I think you want to make sure he's portrayed in a good light. And I gotta believe the director they were talking to, was he a Jets fan as well? The director, the guy who narrates it, was he a Jets fan as well? The guy who was the voice of Hard Knocks that Rodgers met, was he a Jets?
Yeah, excuse my pronunciation. I think it's Liev Schreiber. I think it is. He's definitely from New York. He's definitely as New York as you can get. I'm not sure if he's a Jets fan, but Aaron Rodgers is definitely a fan of him.
Yeah.
um, so he's definitely from New York. He didn't say, so I've got a feeling it might be a Giants. He might be a Giants fan, but I'm not entirely sure. But it's cool to see that like New York connection, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree. And with Aaron Rodgers, you mentioned about it being the honeymoon period and all that, and things obviously change if results don't go in your way. Now, does last season worry you a little bit about performances? Because it was a lot of stats were his career worst, probably since his rookie year, and he didn't play well last year. But on the one side, you could argue that maybe he just wasn't happy in Green Bay. Maybe that's why he wasn't playing well. But on the flip side, you can look at it as, is he getting old and is age actually keeping up? So does that worry you at all in terms of Jets have put all their eggs in one basket and they have focused so much on getting Rodgers? The fact that they bought and hack it into BDOC for that reason. Now, does that worry you at all that it could just be Rodgers coming to an end, or can you see potentially new surroundings, everyone loving him again? Could you see almost a new lease of life, and then that could lead to him being back to his MVP best? Of course, with Hackett, who was the OC in his 2 MVP years.
Yeah, that's a great question because honestly, I don't know. It is, if you do look, like you said, if you look at his stats from last year, what certainly was a down year. But then compared to any Jets quarterback in the past 10 years, I think he would have betted pretty much all of them, which is mildly worrying. But also, it's a thing of he was playing with injury last year. And this is not an excuse because again, I'm not saying that he's going to be MVP standard. He's going to take us to the Super Bowl. I am realistic that it could go horribly wrong, and there's certainly factors about it. So I think the O-line, there's a lot of questions there, which is worrying at this stage. I think that's what I'm most worried about. Obviously, bedding in, new team, new head coach. Nathaniel Hackett, in retrospect, is obviously a great hire because anyone who's seen Hard Knocks, you can see that relationship between the two, and I think that'll. And obviously, Nathaniel Hackett wasn't in Green Bay last year, so that can only help. I can't see that being a negative. But you're right, he's getting on. He's a little bit old, so there's always that, and there's always the worries of injuries, not just to him, across the team as a whole. And if it does go south, like you said, kind of all eggs in one basket. But I think we're at the stage where we have to be all eggs in one basket because Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, they drafted Zach, hasn't quite worked out. So they've got no more redos at this point. So I understand why they've done it, and I think they've done some things very well to accommodate him and to help him perform to what he once was. But there's also things that are a little bit worrying, and I think right now it would be, off the top of my head, O-line, like I said before, and the strength of the division, because obviously, as you'll know, the AFC East will be very tough this year. I have no doubts about it. And the NFC North last season wasn't. I mean, obviously you had the Vikings, the Lions were better, the Bears were dire. It wasn't as strong as the AFC East. I think that's fair to say. So yeah, there's a few concerns, but I think at this point all you can do is hope and hope it's not the same old Jets.
Yeah, I think that will ultimately probably be a downfall, the fact that it is the Jets in the history. And also, people compared this to the likes of the Stafford move and the Brady move, but of course they were doing that in NFC where it's far, far easier to do it than, I know obviously they both won it rather than losing to the AFC team, but obviously it'd be a lot harder for Rodgers to make it for that reason. And also he's had plenty of chances in Green Bay, and he only made one Super Bowl. I lost a lot of playoff games. That was with really good teams. But I do think at the same time, the defense he had in Green Bay, maybe apart from the Super Bowl winning year, has never been as good as what this defense could be. What we saw last year, I think that for a team to go 7-9 with those quarterbacks, you had Aaron Rodgers. His stats last year was still good compared to other quarterbacks, but I think compared to his previous stats aren't maybe the same. And you mentioned offensive line, and you took people like Joe Tippmann, the center from Wisconsin, 43rd overall in the draft this year. Carter Warren from Pittsburgh, the tackle, 112th overall, as well as the likes of Will McDonald, the linebacker from Iowa State, 15th overall, as well as other picks along the way. But that's really a segue into my next debate, which is all about Mekhi Becton. Now, he was the guy that had a lot of promise, but sadly for him, it hasn't worked out in his NFL career, mainly due to injuries. I don't think you can put it entirely on performance. I think injuries have been a massive thing. He missed a lot of last year. I believe it might be all of last year.
All of it.
But
and all of the year before as well.
The year before? Oh, wow. Okay. So that's even longer.
Yeah, 2 full seasons, pretty much. I think he got injured in, not last year, the year before, he got injured in the first game against Carolina. So 2 full seasons, essentially.
Jeez, wow. But so he's got, he's been in the league for quite a long time now. Since the 2020 draft, so it's going to be his 4th season. But from what we saw, what I've read about, you'll know more than me because you probably watched the game, but he's been impressive at times. And for him, someone who's got a massive job this year to protect Rodgers, and Rodgers would be someone who would say something if he wasn't getting good protection. But when he has played, he has looked good at times. So for you, just how important is it, and how do you see him? So how important is it for you to see him getting back to the field and being back for Rodgers' sake? But also, do you see it happening? Do you see him being fit for the season?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. Obviously, he started playing left tackle in his rookie season, and then with his 2 major injuries, there's now questions whether he's going to be playing left or whether he's going to be playing right. Obviously, Dwayne Brown, who is, I believe he's around 38. He's quite old. He was our starting tackle last season in place of Becton. He's coming back, so it'll be who Salah's going to play. And right now, there's questions about who is going to be playing left tackle and right tackle, which is a big worry to me because we're not too far removed from the season. We've still got a bit of time, but we're not too far removed. You're gambling on Becton, who, like I said, hasn't played a competitive game in a long, long time, like over 2 years. And yeah, he has looked pretty solid in pre-season, and I'm absolutely rooting for him. I think if he manages to get to play, I would probably say at this point, 14 plus games. I think my personal comeback player of the year just because of the adversity. And you can see he's had to do a lot of maturing just by some of his comments. At one point, he almost blamed the Jets, which for his like double injury, which he might be well within his right, but this off season he took that back and said, no, it's on me to play, and I just want to play, whether it's left or right, I just want to play. And so you can see he's definitely um, his mental maturity is definitely there, especially with losing. I think he's lost over 50 pounds. I think from last off season, he did put on a lot of weight, and that was kind of one of the issues. So it is a big, big risk. And personally, I'm not massively comfortable with just relying on him, because if it's not him, it's second year Max Mitchell, who we took last year, who's played okay for where we drafted him, but certainly I wouldn't want to be relying on that. So it is a big, big gamble by Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. One that I'm quite surprised at, but like I said, at this point, you've got to keep the faith, I think, and hopefully it shakes out. And I really, really wish the best for Becton, and I hope he can come back, stay healthy, perform to what we know his potential is. But we do know it's a big ask, but you never know.
So we will now head to our final segment, which will be our win-loss tie record. So if you don't know the score by now, if you are listening to this podcast, we ask every fan to go through each game with an answer of win, loss, or tie, overall give themselves a prediction record for the season. Now, Olivia, you were on last season, of course. So the Jets finished. I'm going to get the record up now. I believe it was 7-9. Is that correct?
Yeah, 7-10. 17. Was it 7-10? It was either 7 or 10. Yeah, I feel like it was.
So obviously your record was 8-9 prediction wise, so wasn't far off. But of course, 8-9 seemed quite optimistic back then. But now 8-9 probably seems like quite an underwhelming season. So
yeah, it would be.
Here's why everyone loves the sport, because things can change that quickly. And in a year's time, you've gone from, for me, a team that was a dead cert at the bottom of the division to a team that's probably going to end up being a contender for Super Bowl and for winning the division. So it's a complete different expectations, but you'll be hoping that you can get enough wins to win that division for the first time in a long time. So week one starts off at home to the Buffalo Bills.
Not an easy start, is it? I know we have a tricky start overall. For this one, I'm going to say that it's going to take us a little bit of time to get into rhythm. So I'm going to say that we'll take an L for the first game. I think the Buffalo Bills will take that.
Okay, and it's Monday Night Football as well, so that's going to be a nice little curtain raiser in New York as well.
Yeah, but I think we'll lose it. It'll pick up. It'll get better, I promise.
Well, it doesn't get any easier. Week 2 on the road to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, see, that's a tough first road game. I think the Cowboys will make the playoffs this season. I have no justification for that, just based on vibes. But I do think that we'll win. I think that'll kick off our season, and I think we'll be 1-1. So yeah, I'm going to say win against the Cowboys.
Okay, and then week 3 is your second lot already of AFC East matchups at home again, this time against the New England Patriots.
Yeah, the Patriots are a bit of, and I think I've been saying this for the past 2 years, they're a bit of a weird one this season. I think, and it might be a bit rich of me to say, I think they'll finish last in the AFC East. I just don't think they have some good players, don't get me wrong. I love Matt Judon. I just don't think they have the quality the other 3 teams will. So I think we'll win that, and we'll be at 2-1 at that point.
I agree with you about the Patriots, because I think you can make a genuine case for all 3 teams that aren't the Patriots to win that division. I don't think the Patriots is the one where you can't. They're extremely boring, and I think they're just waiting for Belichick to pass that record, and then they're going to get rid of him, I think. So, yeah, they're not, and they haven't really added anyone, really, apart from my boy Gesicki, but apart from that, they haven't really had anyone that I can think of that's really going to help them even challenge for 3rd, let alone 4th. So I think, yeah, they're in a rebuild year, which is nice. I think all AFC's fans who aren't Patriots fans are very happy to see this.
Absolutely.
Well, week 4, you are home again, but this time against the Chiefs.
I'd be a brave person to suggest that we beat the Chiefs, I think. Um, yeah, it's going to be a loss. I think the Chiefs are just too strong, and somehow they just get stronger and stronger each season. I don't know how they do it. I think they had a nice draft this year. But yeah, I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, 2-2, even if he's at home. So yeah, 2-2.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs are just like, I think they're like the Patriots now, really. I think they just got that. They got obviously the 2 rings in the last 4 years. They're a team that just seems to find ways to win, and I think they are the next dynasty, and I think they'll keep winning games. They keep finding ways to improve their team, and they lost Tyreek Hill and got better. So it's yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Week 5 is another AFC West team. This time on the road to Denver Broncos.
Ooh, the grudge match that nobody
Yeah.
expected. With Sean Pearson's random, very very random comments, but he's entitled to say that. And Aaron Rodgers firing. I think that was the first time we actually saw some of Aaron Rodgers firing us back when he responded to Sean Pearson's comments. Um, it's a bit of, again, the Broncos were like awful last season, and obviously Sean Payton is a big upgrade. I'll say that, but I don't know. I've got this not awful feeling. I've got this feeling that Russell Wilson's done, which that might come back to bite me. But yeah, we had a bit of joy in Denver last season. I think we'll continue that. I think it'll be a Aaron Rodgers revenge game. I think he'll go off, and I think we'll win. I think we'll win at that.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether that's on TV, but I feel that has to be on TV now because there's so much
Oh
need
yeah.
in this, both in the same conference as well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing who wins. And I think Denver Broncos is interesting because I think they could be a team that could do well. But then looking at their game against the Cardinals, where they did play their starters for at least one quarter, if not 2 quarters, well, 1.5 quarters maybe. Watching the highlights this morning on Good Morning Football Britain, sorry, Good Morning Football. And again, two shows mixed up there. And yeah, they didn't look great. They had one good touchdown, but that was against almost like a zero blitz or package. So apart from that, it looked pretty bad. And this normally this is their starters pretty much against quite a lot of backups, I think, always in the Cardinals. So it's a worry in that sense. But it is just one preseason game. These teams are going to improve, and I think it's almost how you finish rather than how you start. So I think even if they're going to make the playoffs, I can see it being a case where they start off really badly, but they find a groove and they find a run of form. Right, week 6 before your week 7 bye, you've got a home game against the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's a tough one. I mean, it's not tough. Obviously, they had a brilliant season last year. I don't think, if I'm stating the obvious, and I think they will be just as strong this season. I think they'll very easily win the NFC East. Um, yeah, I think at home, I think it'll be close, but I'm going to say I'd be daft to say that we'll win that one. I think just by looking at the strength on paper, like the Eagles, yeah, they lost a few players, but what they lost, they gained tenfold. And I think if you just ask anyone about their draft, their free agency, they've got a lot of hype around them. So the pressure's on a bit for the Eagles. I think last season it was. I don't think anyone. Well, some people would have expected them, but I don't think a majority of people expect them to do as well as they did. But the pressure's firmly on. And they could go back to back Super Bowls. I'll be surprised, but I think they'll be strong, and I think we'll just lose that one. If I'm being a bit pessimistic, I think we'll lose that one, but by something like a field goal or something. I think.
Fair play. So you go into week 8 after your bye week on a 3-3 record, according to your record as it stands. I say on the road to the Giants, but it's really neutral venue at this point. You're playing the Giants.
Yeah. So the last time we played the Giants in like the league, not preseason, I actually went, which was 4 years ago, and Sam Darnold had he played in absolute blind. I think it was the best game that I've seen him ever play. So that was a really nice, and we beat the Giants. That was a really fun memory. Um, I mean, the Giants are an interesting team this season. Obviously, made the playoffs. Daniel Jones, a lot of improvement. Big contract. Not one I personally would have gave out, but therefore it's not my money. In a weak NFC, I think they could play. I think they could make the playoffs again. Um, but I think on maybe my bias coming in here again. But I think we'll beat them. And again, like I said, it's almost a neutral venue at this point. So yeah, I think the Jets will win that one quite comfortably as well.
Hey, so then week 9 is a home game against the Los Angeles Chargers.
The Chargers are a bit of an enigma as a team, I think. Like they're so exciting, but then they just never ever deliver. And it's so frustrating. For me personally, um gosh, we have a tough schedule, don't we? Uh like I said, the Chargers, I think that'll be a battle of whoever has the best defenses for that. Because I think that obviously goes out there. Justin Herbert's a fantastic talent. Um, but again, I think our defense will just be able to shut him down. And I don't like Brandon Staley as a head coach. Will he have any answers to Aaron Rodgers? No, I'm going to be confident. And this is a controversial one. I can totally see the argument for the Chargers, but I think we'll win that one. I think we'll beat them.
Hey, so in week 10 is first of 2 straight road games against the Las Vegas Raiders.
Again, yeah, the Raiders are in a bit of an odd spot at the minute. I think, it's an interesting signing Jimmy Garoppolo, especially with his injury history. Um, I don't think they have a massive amount of quality outside of obviously Devontae Adams. Um, so yeah, in Vegas, I'd be more fearful if they had Derek Carr, which says a lot, I think. Yeah, I think we're gonna go on to this mini little win streak, and I think we'll beat the Raiders.
Hey, well, I'll be there at that game, so hopefully that doesn't
Oh,
happen.
nice.
Yeah, that'll be my 29 of 30 stadiums. So yeah, that'll be
Oh,
provided
very
nothing goes
nice.
wrong. That should hopefully all go to plan, and I hopefully can see the Raiders because my brother's a Raiders fan as well. Hopefully, I can
Oh,
see
okay, cool.
his team get the win against them, and hopefully, provided our season goes well, help our division chances. So yeah. Speaking of which,
Yeah,
week
fair enough.
11 is a game at the Buffalo Bills.
Uh, I feel like I mean, we beat the Buffalo Bills at home last season, so I suppose we're not due a win at the Bills. And there's just something about going to Buffalo that terrifies me. And I don't know what it is. I think it's obviously the reputation they've got in terms of like the weather and stuff like that. Obviously, fantastic team. I don't think they've massively regressed this season. I don't think they've really regressed at all. In terms of on paper roster. Um, unless Josh Allen has an injury, which he was injured last year against the Jets, I think they'll win. And again, I think that's the same old Jets mindset coming back. But until they prove otherwise, I'm always going to think that going into New England, Miami, Buffalo will always be underdogs there. So yeah, I think the Bills are going to sweep it again this year, and I think they'll win that one.
Right. So week 12 is a home game against the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, so this is the Black Friday one, right?
That's right.
Is
Yeah,
it?
that'll be the one where there's actually a watch along with our Dolphins fan club. I don't know whether you're going
Yeah,
to the same one or a different one, but we're going to one where it's on that Black Friday. So that should be quite a exciting prospect.
yeah. Yes, there's been talk. There's been behind the scene talk. I can exclusively say, potentially like with the fan groups and potentially the Jets and Dolphins themselves. But that's all I can reveal right now. No, but I can. There has been talk. We'll definitely be doing a meet up at some form in London. So sorry to all the Northerners, but I believe that's like six. Is it? What's the time here? Is
Yeah,
it
it's
six
like
o'clock on
it's,
a Friday afternoon?
I think it's 8 p.m. on a Friday, which is like just
Oh yeah, sorry.
absolutely amazing for the British
Yeah,
fans. It's just like unreal.
yeah, that's fantastic, and it's the first time ever. So that'd be good. That's like ideal football watching time. So onto the game itself. Um, I do like Miami. I wish I didn't. In terms of, I think their team is very good. Or should I say the Miami Jets after this off season, taking Mike White, Braxton Berrios, Dan Feeney. someone else. There was about 4 or 5 like fringe players that just hopped from the Jets to Miami for some unknown reason. But no, at home we did beat you last year with like not against Tua, of course. I think it goes without saying. I think that's the key for Miami this year is whether it's a big year, not only for Tua, but for the Dolphins to see where they stand. And it's side note, it's always a difficult one when you're talking about and evaluating a player. And the main issue, I suppose, is health because obviously it's not ability, it's not like how much graft they're putting in. It's sometimes it's really unfortunate, and it's a tough one. So that'll be the key for Miami. And obviously, you can't predict that. So at home, yeah, this is tough. I think I've got to go. I've got to say Jets win, Jets victory. Battle of the quarterbacks. I think if Aaron Rodgers is vintage Aaron Rodgers, then yeah, I think he'll put on a show, and hopefully we beat the Dolphins again at home.
Well, we must stick with it now because after week 13, week 14, week 15 players again on the road. Obviously, other part of the series. How you seeing that one?
Yeah, we play each other quite quickly in succession, don't we? Which I don't know if I like that or not. But like I alluded to earlier, until the Jets can prove that they can go to AFC rivalries and go to Hard Rock, go to Foxborough, and win, and like in that environment, I'm always going to say the Dolphins, Patriots, and Bills will be favourites. Until we get to the Patriots game away, but that's we'll get to that. Yeah, I'm going to say Dolphins win. Like I said, I do like the team. They've got really, really bright. Uh, sorry, they've got some superstars really. Like you just need to look at Tyreek Hill. Their O line is, from what I've seen, I haven't looked into it massively. Seems a bit questionable, but it's only pre-season, so benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I think they'll beat us just because it's the Jets.
Well, I could rant all day about the offensive line issue, so that's for another podcast. Week 13 and week 14, home to the Falcons, home to the Texans.
Falcons, they're kind of an unknown quantity, I suppose. I don't think their roster is particularly strong. Same with the Texans, really. I think clearly they're in rebuild mode. They're seeing what they've got in the young players, young quarterbacks, obviously. I'm going to say 2 wins. 2 wins there.
Hey.
And we should be expecting 2 wins.
Yeah, I think if you can't beat those teams, then I think something's going to all be wrong. Then week 16 and 17 is at home to the Commanders, your final home game of the season, and then week 17 on the road to the Browns.
Commanders again. I mean, they've just been taken over, so they're in a little bit less of a mess than what they were 3 months ago. Should be a win. Should be a standard win. I know it's a win, but you need to be beating these teams in the regular season. Browns, the Elijah Miller. What did you say, Browns? Sorry.
Yeah, Browns. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I played it. The Elijah Miller a revenge game. Who we traded to the Browns in the off season actually. I hope we beat them. I don't like the Browns for multiple reasons, which we won't get into. But yeah, heavy win.
So one Jets winner might actually get behind. And then week 18 is a road game against the New England Patriots.
I mean, on paper we should be winning that, but it's the Jets after the disaster that was last year when I, organised a meet up in Leeds to watch the Patriots game, and it was the worst game I've ever seen. And there was 30 Jets fans, I think, all watching this ridiculous game between 2 awful teams, and then they go and win it on a punt return, or it was kickoff or something ridiculous. Of course, so Jets lose on that. They always do. So yeah, we're going to the playoffs. I think we'll make the playoffs. We go on a defeat. We'll rest our starters anyway.
So that means that you all finished the season 11-6. That has you at the moment as our joint fifth most optimistic fan. So it's quite positive. Only Niners, Bills, Bengals, and Ravens ahead of you. So I think that's a fairly reasonable, especially with the AFC East, so tough as it is. I think that's a pretty good, solid prediction.
Yeah, I think that's fair for those teams above. I think it's all or nothing this season. I'm sick of losing. I just want to watch one playoff game, just one. I don't ask for much of the person, but hopefully we get more. But it is the Jets. That's my. I'll always tag that on to the end. Very positive, but it is the Jets.
Yeah, fair enough. But that is where we'll end our podcast for this episode. So first of all, thank you again, Olivia, for coming on.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I love talking about the Jets, so thank you.